A lot of people are going to give you ideas on what you should be doing with your small business. And it's important to listen to all of these ideas. As a small business owner who's doing the same thing day in and day out and dealing with the same problems every day, it's easy to get blinders put on to the point where you miss the big picture, where you're missing some small detail in the big picture that would allow you to become more successful. It's not about somebody else's education or experience level when they're proposing an idea. Rather, it's about their perspective, the fact that they are outside of your business. They may have something to offer that nobody within your business will suggest to you because everybody in your business is a member of the same company culture. So everybody is going to have blinders on to the exact same thing. So it's good to listen to ideas regardless of where they come from. But how do you figure out which ideas you should implement and which ideas you shouldn't implement when somebody else is proposing them? I have a very simple formula for this, and it has nothing to do with the content of the idea. I don't say, well, all of those ideas I'm going to ignore because they're too risky. I'm going to ignore all of those ideas because they're too conservative and boring. They're not trying to do anything with their business. I listen to the ideas based on how the person is implementing them and the risk associated. So my two criteria are as follows. The first is, if you tell me that I should be doing something, you need to also be doing it. Don't tell me that in addition to fixing Parasound and ADCOM amps, I should really fix IR acoustics amps as well, because it would make me a ton of money and get me this new demographic of audiophile that would use my services. If you're not doing it yourself. If I say, okay, that's a good idea, so do you do it? And they go, well, no. And I go, why? And they go, well, I do it, I'm just afraid it's kind of difficult to get amps that don't have negative feedback loops to prevent distortion back to factory specifications. It's just that's kind of hard. I'm gonna go, well, so you think that there's a risk involved in doing this, and you think that the risk involved in doing it makes it something that you shouldn't do, but you're telling me I should do it. Oh, that's great. So why are you telling me I should do it? As an experiment? So you can see if it works for me? So it can fail on somebody but you? Fuck you. I'm not going to implement an idea if you're not actually doing it. Because if this was such an amazing idea, then you would have jumped on it before you even suggested it to me. Now, if somebody else says, you should get into fixing this device because it's going to make a lot of money, it's worth the time and effort to learn, and then I go over to his store and I see that he has 10 broken ones that he fucked up on the table, and then another table of ones that he's fixing now because he learned how to do it properly, I'm going to take that idea more seriously, because he suggested I do something that he's actually doing. That guy went through the trouble to figure out how to work this device and figure out how to open it up properly, and now he's fixing it and making money. So he proposed to me an idea that he's actually doing. He's putting his money where his mouth is, and I value that. The second set of criteria is that there's the same set of risk involved for both of us, meaning that if you're suggesting I put $10,000 into an idea, that $10,000 means as much to you as it does to me. So if you're a multi-millionaire and you put $5,000 into an idea, and then you suggest that I put $5,000 into an idea, I'm not going to do that. If you're going to tell me this is an amazing idea, this is going to blow up, this is going to become the next big thing, you really should get in on it, and you're a millionaire and you put $400,000 into it, then maybe I'll throw $5,000 or $10,000 into it. But if you're a multi-millionaire and you put $5,000 into this, fuck if I'm going to put $5,000 into that. $5,000 is a month of rent. That means something to me. And whereas it doesn't mean that much to you. You don't have the same amount to lose that I do, and so I'm not going to take the idea seriously. If you put in enough that the loss, if the idea went bad, meant as much to you as it did to me, then I would take it a little more seriously. On that note, I want to talk about the idea of concept versus reality, because a lot of the people that are giving you ideas may very well know more about business than you. And one of the defenses that I've heard very often of really stupid ideas, dumb ideas, ideas that would not have worked, was that guy's a business genius, or that guy's, a music industry veteran, or this guy's, he's just a business genius. He's always been a business genius and he knows what he's doing. Do you know how people become business geniuses? They work at other businesses and they learn. But do you know how people learn? They fuck up. Then they fix their fuck up, and now they've learned. So they have fucked up when it was just a concept, meaning that they worked at a business, they decided to do, let's say, a crazy advertising campaign, and that guy figured out that this advertising works and this doesn't. After that bad advertising that cost that business all that money, didn't give them a return on their investment, causing the business to go under. A lot of people who are business geniuses made really fucked up decisions early on so that they could learn, and they also may be making fucked up decisions now because they deal with concepts. If their concept fails, that's an investor's money that has been lost. Okay, well, we'll use another investor's money, and we'll change the idea, and next quarter maybe we'll see better earnings. That's what it's like to a lot of business experts. Because to them, it's a concept. It's not a reality. If Groupon goes under, the CEO of Groupon's probably not going to have his nice car repossessed. He's going to keep that. Because that's how these businesses work. When they're successful, they're very successful. But when they fail, it's a concept that has failed. It's not a reality to the business experts who are working within the company oftentimes. And there's a saying that the poor are always the ones who pay the most. And that it's an ironic saying because, again, the poor people don't have any money, so how could they pay the most? What the saying means is that poor people feel it the worst because when they lose $5,000, it means more than when the millionaire loses $5,000. They pay the most because that $5,000 is not a small percentage of their bank account. That $5,000 is their life savings. So think about this before you implement an idea. Because you as a small business owner, you may not have the capital to recover from a bad idea. You don't have the capital to recover if you lose $5,000. And I hear criticism sometimes of businesses like, well, you shouldn't be running a business if you don't have the capital to survive for at least 3 to 6 months if something goes wrong. You know what? That's great. You keep living in your fucking fairy tale world. I started my business around 19 to 20. Most places will not give you any sort of loan or any sort of help unless you have 3 years of business financials. And I would tell people, 3 years ago I was a junior in high school. Are you fucking kidding me? So how was I going to start my business? I had just lost my job, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't have 3 years of financials. So I had to start with pocket change. And I had to run my business based as one would run their business if they had pocket change. So I wasn't always taking a lot of risks. And when I did take risks, they were very, very calculated because as a small business owner that didn't have a small business loan, I had, my fine would have been the largest. I would have paid the most if I lost. As a small business owner, you don't have a quarter, you don't have a year, you don't have annual terms to fix your fuck-ups because when you start, you don't have that bubble of money. You don't have that cushion. You have 1 month to fix your fuck-up. Because 99% of America pays their electric bill once a month, 99% of America pays their gas bill every month, and 99% of America pays their rent or their mortgage once a month. So if they want to live indoors, have lights, and be able to take a shower without screaming because it's cold, they need to fix their fuck-ups within 1 month. So yes, these guys are business geniuses, but they had the luxury to become a business genius. They had the luxury of figuring out which idea didn't work. Do you know how they figured out what idea worked for that particular company? They lost money for a long time. Let's talk about companies that people brag about because they're doing so many amazing things and they're growing. Let's look at Groupon. Every year they made more gross earnings. Every year they expanded and opened new offices, and you'll see it in the news how this company's growing and doing all this amazing shit. You know why they're doing all that amazing shit? Because they have the luxury of losing money. People keep looking at the increased gross earnings and the expansion because that's the cool thing to look at. What I'm looking at, what impresses me, is net earnings. That is all I care about. A deli that has shit gross earnings that nets $2,000 a month is more impressive to me than Groupon that has net losses of $5 to $15 million a year. I don't give a fuck about your gross earnings. I care about what you spend to get your gross earnings. And yes, you may have a concept that got somewhere, and you may have some interesting or cool business ideas. It's easy to come up with an interesting business idea when you have the luxury of not having to make money. We don't have the luxury of not being able to make money. We don't have the luxury to be business geniuses. We have to understand what the risk is before we go in. We have to understand that if our risk goes south, we no longer have air conditioning, we no longer have hot water, and we no longer have a place to live. That's the reality. Nobody understands your risk better than you. So don't let anybody tell you that you're not taking enough risk. Don't let anybody tell you what risks you should be taking. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're making all the wrong decisions when it comes to risk, because the only person who's going to be there to pay for the risk is you. And if you don't believe this, think back to peer pressure. Think back to 1st and 2nd grade. where somebody would tell you, you should shoot that teacher with this water gun, with this water pistol, and no, we'll all stand behind you. I'm going to do it too. See, I have a water pistol in my desk. I'm going to do it too. This is the cool thing to do. If you do this, you'll get to come to the party next week, and Tiffany is going to like you. And with peer pressure, a kid in 1st or 2nd grade may just do that. So you shoot the teacher in the head with the water pistol. Now what happens? All those people that were standing around you, cheering you on to do this, saying they're going to do it too, are they anywhere to be found? No. They all ran out of the room. And when the teacher says, did you tell him to do this? They're going to go, no, no. That's a lesson that so many of us learn at a young age, that all those kids who are saying that's the cool thing to do, all those kids are not going to be around when the shit falls, when the bad consequences actually happen. And that's the same way it works in real life. All these people are going to give you all these ideas, but when these ideas leave you broke and destitute because they were dumb, none of those people who gave you those ideas are going to be offering you a couch to sleep on. None of those people are going to be offering you a loan so you can pay your rent that month. And none of those people are going to give a fuck. So think about it before you listen to one of these stupid ideas, because nobody is going to understand that risk better than you. And nobody has to pay that for the consequences of that risk but you.